Paul Skenes became the entire topic of conversation in the baseball world outside of Pete Rose, because ESPN's own Jeff Passan, who is a columnist and a mouthpiece, I guess, for the establishment. I kid, but he is one of baseball's establishment meatheads, as I'll call them. He is in a long list with Ken Rosenthal and Bob Nightingale and others. He's always reporting breaking news on the trading deadline day. Definitely a true insider. No one should knock that or discount that. He joined his ESPN colleague, Pat McAfee, on his show, PMS Live. It is, well, the conversation turned to Paul Skenes, and we have to play this and talk about this because Paul Skenes is being put in a awkward position, I should say, with his employer right now, the Pittsburgh Pirates, because I think of Jeff Passan and these comments.
Okay.
Let's take a listen to what he had to say about where things stand with the Pittsburgh Pirates and Paul Skenes right now.
The realistic future of Paul Skenes in his baseball career. Like, the Pirates can trade him at any time. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And
yes, let's start here, Pat. It's not just Paul Skenes who deserves better; it's Pittsburgh Pirates fans
concur
who deserve better.
And we all agree with that.
What, by trading him, they deserve better?
Well, I think he's not talking about that yet. He's just saying that Paul Skenes and Pittsburgh Pirate fans deserve to have a better team.
Correct.
You know, I think there's some interesting wording being used here about deserve. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody deserves anything really when it comes to like having a good baseball team on the field. I think the Pirates get what they deserve when you look at the attendance at some of their games. Unfortunately, like aside from a Paul Skenes giveaway, they can't fill the house, and they have a beautiful stadium and a beautiful bridge to get there, and so they can't fill the house there. And so I understand the point that he's making is that, you know, but to group Paul Skenes in there, Paul Skenes is a member of that team. So I don't think it's right to necessarily pit him against the Pirates right now. You know, he hasn't been winning his games. He hasn't been going out there and throwing blanks completely. You know, he gave up 3 home runs to the Cubs a few weeks ago, and we talked about it here in 1 inning. So he hasn't been a flawless diamond like he was last year. And one could argue that he had a worse team around him last year.
They did improve from last year, the Pirates. At
least on paper, yes. They improved. Now, they already fired their manager because they feel like they were improved on paper and they were not performing well. And they just put in the new manager. It's not an interim manager. It's a new manager. So
give him a chance.
I think what we're about to hear from Jeff Passan is a little bit premature. Let's let it roll.
And they deserve a system that allows teams to keep great players, right? Now, in some cases, guys will stay with small market teams. We've seen that. Bobby Witt Jr. signed for 11 years and $288 million with the Kansas City Royals. We saw Joe Mauer stick around
for a second. He just started to mention Joe Mauer. He mentioned Bobby Witt Jr. Like, look, every team should have a superstar player in baseball. All 30 of them. There's no questions for me about that. I want all the teams to have a superstar and to have a team culture built around it. I want there to be extremely high competition from team to team to team to team. It doesn't need to be New York, LA all the time. It does not need to be this way. In fact, I would argue it's better for the game and for the growth of the game for that to be the opposite. I don't know. What do you think, Nika?
I think every team deserves to have a superstar. If you start gobbling up all the superstars to one side, to one team, the baseball game is lopsided. Who are these guys, the superstars, going to play against?
Yeah, I just want to quickly give my thoughts on small market teams and superstars. Like, why shouldn't they? You know, what I don't understand. Like, we've seen some superstars stay with their team. Like, why wouldn't they?
You know, the way he comes across when he says this, he's like dissing the players that stay with the smaller market.
Yeah, it does come across as a diss a little bit to Bobby Witt Jr. Like, oh, you took only $288 million. It's
and you stay with a small market team. It's like, why not? It's still a team. The city believes in me. The team believes in me. What's wrong with that?
Well, let's continue to listen to him, because this is about to get worse.
No.
Around in Minnesota, like there are plenty of instances where guys will stay with smaller market teams. But what incentive does Paul Skenes have to extend with the Pirates when the Pirates haven't shown the willingness from either Bob Nutting all the way down or the ability to bring in guys who are going to make this team better? The Pirates haven't shown.
I don't know where everyone thinks the Pirates are in their development, but they are not in a position to necessarily just go all in right now. It doesn't mean that they're not looking at their chips, though, on a table in the back room and looking at this strategically and saying, like, hey, we might push all in next year or the year after, or they might be looking at free agents 2-3 years down the line and saying, like, hey, you know, when Skenes is in year number 6, we might be able to put a winning competition championship team on the field. You know, you just don't know what those internal conversations are. So I think it's a little bit of a reach for him to say this. Now, having said that, the track record with the Pirates is not good.
Okay, that's fine. But this whole call to action to trade or not sign Paul Skenes is very premature. He was a rookie last year. This is a new manager. Where is the patience?
He literally just celebrated his year anniversary in being in the big leagues. It's like, I don't understand why anyone thinks like, I don't know. We haven't heard an extension around him at all. Like we did with Merrill, like we have with Pete Crow Armstrong even. We haven't heard the Paul Skenes extension stories. You know, we don't follow the Pittsburgh local media as much as maybe we do the Cubs and the Padres, but we still haven't seen a lot of these like people talking about this. This is the first I've heard really in the mainstream media talking about Paul Skenes being extended with the Pirates. So let's go on, because Jeff Passan has a solution.
That they are worthy of a Paul Skenes extension at this point. And so what it comes down to is the Pirates, including 2025, have 5 years of club control before he reaches free agency. If they believe that they have absolutely no chance of signing him, then they should trade him. And you can make the argument that they should trade him now. I'm not going to, because I think the Pirates, with some of the players that they have coming up.
All right, pause it. This is hilarious. He literally backtracks right after he puts this thought out into the universe, because like I said, no one I heard before this clip said that the Pirates should trade Paul Skenes right now. I've not heard anyone say that. And yet he says right afterwards that, oh, they shouldn't do that.
Is he confused?
I'm just pointing out the fact that, like, you put this thought into the universe, this conflicting thing, this thing that's going to create conflict, and then you turn right around and say, like, I'm not trying to make this happen, or I'm not talking about this. And I just don't understand where you're going with that. Like, why even bring this up in the first place?
Create drama.
Create drama.
Artificially created drama, because now Paul Skenes will have that thought in his back of his head, and like, should I stay? Should I go? Well, it will affect you.
We're gonna keep talking about this. Let's finish out the clip, because we're almost done, and I want to get all of his thoughts out there and then bring them all back together.
They would have a chance to win if they were to go out and actually bring in some offensive players and sign some free agents. But the truth is, like, there are teams that already are going to ask about Paul Skenes at the trade deadline this year. And I don't anticipate that he's going to be moved, but there's a real argument to be made that the best thing for the Pittsburgh Pirates would be to move Paul Skenes when he has his most value.
Every year.
It's a depressing reality.
I get it. Yeah. What is the reality?
I don't know. It seems like Pat McAfee is a Pittsburgh fan, or like.
Well, he's on the East Coast, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know which teams he roots for, but just hearing him groan in the background as he hears Jeff Passan saying like the best thing for the Pirates is to trade Paul Skenes, and hearing Pat like, oh, like, I mean, yeah, if I'm a Pirates fan, I'm thinking the same thing. It's like,
why? Why not just wait another season and see where we at with the new management?
I guess what I don't like or understand about this is we just had a managerial change.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like this is a thought that's being planted in the baseball universe, like, to get Paul Skenes out of Pittsburgh. It's we feel sorry for him. You know, on our last episode, we played a clip of Paul Skenes talking to the Pittsburgh media after Derek Shelton, the manager, was fired. And I can't help but think that Jeff Passan saw this clip and was like, I feel really sorry for Paul Skenes. I think I'm going to go help him get freed. You know, and I feel really bad doing that to Pirates fans, but, you know, I care about Paul Skenes. It's like, no, you don't. You care about creating conflict and drama. That's why you said this in the first place. You know how to sell modern media to people. It's all about conflict and drama.
Where is he trying to push Paul Skenes into?
I don't
Yankees,
know.
the
Probably,
Dodgers.
Maybe. Could they have enough arms? Do they need a third pitching staff to get through the season? Like, I think they had 2 bullpen games already this week. I don't know.
Yeah, they did.
The point is obviously it feels like there's an unnecessary will here to prematurely have this conversation. Our team's going to legitimately pick up the phone at the trading deadline and call the Pirates and ask about Paul Skenes. Probably. They wouldn't be doing their jobs otherwise if they didn't. But is there a realistic shot that Paul Skenes is going to be traded to some other team this year at the deadline? I would say highly, highly unlikely. And
not even as a renter.
They're like, they might burn PNC Park down if they trade Paul Skenes this year. You saw the lines of people on this podcast of people waiting to get in on his bobblehead day. It's the only day they could sell tickets in mass to Pittsburgh Pirates games right now. Is if there's some kind of Paul Skenes giveaway, you'll bet the lines will be packed out the door, down the bridge, around the corner. So him putting this thought into the universe is just preying on the feelings of Pirates fans right now. To me, that's how it feels and comes across a little bit. I don't think there's any real chance that Paul Skenes gets traded this year. I don't think there was any reason to talk about it in those terms. And
that's mainstream media for you. Jumping to sharks, creating conflict.
I just think this was a little bit tactless on his part, and you know, there was no reason to literally discuss it. Am I saying the Pirates ownership has done a great job? No, I'm not.
That's not the conversation.
But they drafted Paul Skenes.
Yes.
They had every right to do that, and he owes them, as someone that wants to play in this league, he owes them to go out there and do his best every time. And that's on him to do.
Yeah.
And so far, we haven't seen the Paul Skenes that we've seen last year on this year's team. So let's wait maybe until he's pitching like that again to go and start defending him for something that doesn't need to be defended.